Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Hey guys, welcome back. Another edition of Coffee with Closers.
What's up?
What's going on?
Welcome. Don, Gavin, good morning. Greg,
Morning.
happy to have you, brother.
Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be a guest on the show. I see you guys launch this. What was it, like 5 months ago now, or 4 months ago now?
Probably, 3.5, 4, give or take. Yeah, we're having a lot of
This stemmed
fun.
from that conversation in Key West until about 4 a.m. Was this where this podcast originated?
It did.
I love it.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
I saw that picture of the three of you guys, and I'm like, I bet you they came up with this idea in Key West at 4 a.m.
That's
That
exactly
is
what happened.
exactly right,
Look
my
at
friend.
that. My guess
That's
is true.
awesome.
We gotta
Along with
share
a few other
a,
ideas, yeah.
They'll share a common need to get out and get wild sometimes, you know?
I love getting wild. My venue at my location of choice is Las Vegas.
I love it. Hey guys, I want to do something today. I have about 100 of my books, The Ultimate Guide to Wholesaling Real Estate. And I bought a bunch of these and I was giving them out to people at events. But COVID has really dampened my events. And I got about 100 of these books. So if you ask a question today, I'm going to mail you a book for free, my cost. So if you do ask a question, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you text me your name and your address. And we can use the number. Where's it at? Here it is. Let's actually get it up on the screen.
Well, while Dave is doing that, how's everybody doing today for this week? How's your week going there, Greg?
There it is. All right.
It's going great. We got a couple new properties came in last week, and got a few we're closing on this week. And biggest win was we got a monster assignment out in San Diego last week. Big, 6 figures. So we put that together, and that was a good score for sure. So we have to close it. But it's funny that California buyers, for some reason, on purpose, I put out my wholesales cheap, and then they always, bid it's like you're basically putting it on the MLS. So the demand for these properties is just crazy. So that was a big score. But yeah, just been
Greg, tell us a little bit about it if you don't mind. How'd you find the deal?
Yeah.
How long were you working it? What was the lead source?
Yeah. This is not normal.
Fill us in.
This is not normal, this one. So I wouldn't bank on this all the time, but I hired a cold calling company to cold call for me. Okay. And I said, let's give this a shot. I was like, might as well give it a go. I wasn't too sold on it, but I figured let's just give this a shot. So anyway, the first batch of leads, sellers were talking to my lead manager, and it's just garbage. And then this one came in. This is in Oceanside. And it came in and it sounded pretty good, especially for a California seller. These people are not really desperate ever. At least in San Diego, they're pretty savvy. And I heard the call, and she talked to my lead manager, spoke with her, and I was like, this is a good lead. Like, this is something that I think is going to happen. Like, it was like the seller wasn't distressed, but so I got on the phone with the gentleman after, and we had a pretty good conversation. Not a lot of pain, not a lot of desperation. The house was not falling over, but he just wanted like a fair price. And like
this is out in California, and you live in New York.
I'm in New York right now, and this was in California. Yeah.
I love it.
So anyway, so the seller, he was reasonable, but I knew that at his price, like, we could make it work. But there were some other investors competing for this house, and I was like trying to figure out how to be the guy that he was going to sell to. So basically, I made him an offer, I think, of like, I forget the price. It was like $490 or something like that. He wanted I offered him $480. He wanted $500. And we were kind of close. 500 was definitely a bit of a deal, but I didn't want to kind of cave in and think he could get more. So then I said, if we split the difference, can you just sign? And they said yes. So I got it. And then we put it out to the list and sold it for $71,000 assignment. So it doesn't close yet. I don't get excited until it closes. Obviously.
Exactly. But man, that's a massive deal.
Yeah.
71,000. And how much money do you have invested in this deal?
Zilch. Yeah.
That's cool. That's
71K,
awesome.
you got
You don't
zero
need-
money in it.
it's
Your
crazy,
only
yeah.
cost is your marketing,
Marketing.
which is awesome. So how did you guys go about marketing for the deal? Where did it was a cold
It was
calling
a cold
company?
call. It was a cold call.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It was a
How
cold
awesome
call.
is that?
You know what? I would say it was a little lucky because cold calling normally, from my experience, like it takes 4, 5, 6, 7 months to really get some momentum. This was just happened to be luck of the draw. So listen, that could have been a mailer. Like it could have been any channel, right? It could have been a text message. But the way I kind of saw it, I'm like, a lot of people would have probably maybe thrown that lead away because it wasn't like your typical, like, oh my God, I need to get rid of this thing. It's a mess. Like I'm in trouble. I just knew that market and I knew what like houses were selling for over there. So I knew at that price, like there's something we could do. Something we could do to make it happen.
You hit on something though, and that is, a lot of people. First of all, you hit on something where you said the first handful of leads were coming in were junk, right?
Uh-huh.
And a lot of people will see the first handful of leads come in as junk and think, "Oh, that marketing source doesn't work." You got to turn a lot of dirt to get the gold. Every once in a while, a nugget pops up. This is a nugget. The second thing you hit on is it wasn't obvious.
No,
and that's the other thing. Most people fail because they don't recognize the opportunity, and then the next step where most people fall short is they don't recognize what a deal actually is. You knew the market, you were able to recognize the opportunity, you understood marketing channels were about sifting through dirt. And that's really when people say, oh, it doesn't work for me. It's because they're missing something in those 3 steps. And recognizing opportunity is usually once the phone has rang, like your marketing has worked and the phone has rang, recognizing opportunity is usually the number 1 point of failure. And then the number 2 is, okay, I see opportunity, but now I don't know what a deal actually looks like. Yeah. Those are the 2 major points of failure where I see most people hit the wall when they're trying to get going in this business.
That is so true. And especially in areas like San Diego is, the houses are sort of similar, but it's not like a Phoenix where like everything is literally homogenous, where like every property is very similar.
Right.
Like I've found in San Diego, there's some pockets you really got to know. And then especially up in like the Northeast where, the inventory up here, like you could have a house built in 1920 and then next door, there's a house that was built in 1970. So like knowing like some new people, like they might have a good opportunity, but like you said, Don, they don't know how to really like what it's worth or what you can pay for it to still make it a deal. And they fumble these leads and they blame the leads, but they really just didn't know, like you said, how to capitalize on that opportunity. And that's something that just comes with experience. And, a lot of the houses we've been doing this year have been through other investors because they're coming to me and they're bringing opportunities and they're new. They don't really know the market as well as someone who's been doing it for a while. So I'm able to help them, evaluate the deal and then we can make an offer and then we JV it, so That's been a good, value add I've been offering in my, in the New York area at least, but definitely good points you made.
Man, I love that. Super new at this. What was your earnest money amount? People are still trying to use 1,000 or less is a question that we have. So how much earnest money did you have to use on this deal to make the $71,000 assignment?
Yeah. So you can, I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to like talk about so basically in California, from my experience, let's say you have an earnest money with a seller for $1,000 and then you go wholesale it and you have a cash buyer going to put 10 grand down. You can have the 10 grand pretty much cover your gap with the seller. So like technically no, but really 10 grand, but it's the assign ors money. So that's in California.
How much did you have in it of your own?
I didn't put a deposit down because
0. So you use the end buyer's earnest money.
Yeah.
I love doing that. We do that almost every day.
For instance, we do a $500 earnest money deposit standard on every one of our contracts. And if the seller asks for more, then we'll negotiate with the seller, just, in that particular situation. But then we require our buyers to put an earnest money deposit down, and it's greater than what we put in, what we put down on the property. So it always ends up satisfying whatever the situation is with the seller.
Yeah. Another thing too with that question is it really depends on where you are. So for example, like up in the Northeast, like sometimes I'm putting $10,000, $15,000 down hard, non-refundable. So like, in New York, you really can't do that because the attorney, like in order to have a signed contract, the attorney sends your attorney a contract and then you have to put a deposit down before it's a valid contract. So it's harder to wholesale up here because you have to have some money to put down in deposits. So normally I put down like $2,000, $2,500, sometimes $5,000. We'll get away with 1,000 sometimes, but normally it's going to be more than that. But you know, a lot of people don't like that. I recognize that as a little bit of a barrier to entry. So there's not 10,000 wholesalers in my market. There's a good amount, but it's not as saturated, I guess, as a Phoenix or a Dallas or somewhere where there's, you know, I don't know, hundreds of wholesalers, but there's still deals anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it. Tiana, send me your address. I'm going to mail you a free book for asking a question today.
Look at that.
Much appreciated. That's awesome. And that was actually a really good question. Gavin, what are you doing for Earnest Money?
Sorry, I've got a bit of a nightmare on my hands. I'll explain it here in a minute. $100 is what we do. $100.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be high.
Again,
it doesn't have to be 1%.
But very rarely send it in. We use the buyer.
Same.
Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. Let me go send this over tomorrow. Yeah.
You should send it in, I guess, but it depends. If it's something that's like a certain situation, if you feel the seller's a little dodgy and a bit crazy, we'll send it in, you know.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, $100 for us.
I got you. All right. So Greg, I want to jump in with you for a couple minutes here and talk about, and we've done this on a podcast or two in the past too, but like the closing attorney. And this just blows my mind, right? So I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. We have title companies that can get deals done, and we have closing attorneys who can do it, but I'd never go hire an attorney if I can just have a title company do it. It's typically cheaper and it's not required, right? But up in New York, where you do a lot of investing, everybody has to have an attorney?
Yeah, in New Jersey too, and Connecticut.
Or in New Jersey too?
The 3 states, yeah, you got it. PA, you don't have to have an attorney, so that's a good area to do it in without dealing with the crap. But basically, so I'll just speak mostly towards New York State, which is pretty popular. So there's probably a good amount of investors who are watching this or who will watch this. So the way it happens in New York is when you have a seller tell you that I accept your offer and I want to proceed, it's very hard to get them to sign a contract, not because it's illegal. And once again, this is not legal advice, but the standard practice that everyone is aware of up here is like you have an attorney represent you in a transaction. So if you have the seller sign the contract without them having an attorney, you could get sued down the line potentially if they wanted to like kind of go and, you know, report you or something. So I always have all the sellers that I work with get their own attorney. I refer them attorney if they don't have one. Most of them have an attorney.
And what does that cost the seller?
Well, that's part of the negotiation too. It depends on where you are. In Long Island, it could cost $2,500, $3,000. If you're up where I am, it's about $1,000 on average, $1,500 just to have them represent the seller. So it's more expensive. But what happens is once you get an attorney involved, it takes about a week to 2 weeks to actually have a fully signed contract if it's working well, because that attorney that's representing the seller has to send your attorney the contract. That takes a week usually. And then usually that contract, there's some language in there that's not in the investor's favor. Usually they want 10% down. They don't want it to be assignable. So then you have
these attorneys go back and forth six or eight times.
So they go back and forth
up to
for
$3,000
another week.
Oh, so great.
My record is it took 2 months one time to get an accepted offer signed in contract. Took 2 months, 2 full months. And it was like in limbo. So the seller could have sold it behind my back and I would have had no recourse. But anyway, so once you have a fully signed contract, this is the real thing I love about New York State and doing properties up there is I've had this happen to me in Texas where I've had a hot deal under contract. We had a buyer lined up and we were going to make a fortune. And then the seller wanted to try to get out of the contract and they can't technically do it, but like, it's really like you can cloud the title, but I still ended up losing. And I think I got $1,000 and I was going to make like 60. So like I lost the deal. So in New York, it's very hard to get into contract, but it's also very hard to get out of contract. So if a seller changes their mind when you have a fully signed contract, you can actually sue them for the entire purchase price if they don't want to close. So if you're buying a house for $500,000 and the seller doesn't want to sell because they have a higher offer and you're in contract, you can sue the seller for $500,000 and win. So you can't ever get snaked out of a deal by a buyer or a seller. It's impossible. Like legally, it's impossible.
So there are some advantages of having the attorney. Okay.
So when you assign, like if you have your contract in New York that is allowed to be assignable, most attorneys don't care about that. if you assign the contract and you're making $100,000, which is, you could do that down in Long Island or up by me, if the seller's mad, you're making money, and the buyer's mad, you're making money. Everyone has to close. Like, you can't really, like, if you're the buyer, you'd leave your deposit down. So it's a good state, because when you have a contract, you're going to close all those deals. The seller can't squeal out. The buyer can't back out unless he wants to lose a huge deposit. So those are some advantages that I've liked about doing business here. It's just, you have to get used to that, and you have to have a big pipeline, because the cycle takes a lot longer. So as long as you have a good pipeline, it doesn't really bother me anymore. And then when I go get a house in California and I sign it on DocuSign, I'm like, I think it's like a scam. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, what is this?
It's way easier over there.
Doesn't make any sense.
So the seller has an attorney. You, as the investor buyer, have an attorney. If you're wholesaling, you still have an attorney, and then that other end buyer has an attorney,
and then their lender has an attorney.
And then their lender, assuming there's a lender. So what happens if it's like a joint venture with two investors in the middle, and then a buyer that has a lender? How many attorneys are there?
Well, if you're going to JV with somebody, normally you're going to just share that attorney.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes sense. So 4 to 5 though.
I have one closing right now today. There's a house in Westchester. It's in Millwood, which is like a really like bougie area, so it was expensive purchase price. I have an attorney. The buyer has an attorney. The lender's attorney is going to be there, and then the seller and the seller's attorney are going to be there. Or the seller's not going to be there, but his attorney's going to be there. So there's 4 or 5 attorneys involved. It's crazy. It's at 1:30 today, actually.
So what does that cost? I mean, is that like $1,000 per attorney?
My attorney he gives me a better deal because I give him volume.
Repeat.
Yeah, but normally the attorney fee, if you're buying a house, is going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500. That's kind of the spectrum around here. If you're up in Buffalo, it's probably going to be cheaper. Just a different area up there. It's more like the Midwest. But that's just an attorney fee for his time. That doesn't count for the closing costs that are extremely high up here because, well, the attorney, and then there's a lot of there's transfer tax, and there's mortgage recording tax, and there's a lot of costs that go into closing on a house here. So I would say on average, Don, if like when I buy a house, I'm just thinking out, like if I'm going to close on something with hard money or even private money, closing costs are normally about $5,000 to $10,000 if I'm buying a house for $200,000, $300,000. So you have to account for that when you're buying these properties and making offers, because in Texas, for example, I mean, we've closed on a lot of houses there, and it's like $2,000, $1,500. We're closing in cash, and it just blows my mind. Even in California, the closing costs aren't as bad as I thought. They're much more reasonable than New York, and it's still expensive out there. So
no, I mean, you're talking Central Valley, California, you're talking about $1,500 a transaction.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's buyer and seller side. And that's that's both sides. So that's
you have
insane.
Transfer tax in California?
We have transfer tax. Yeah, I mean that's not necessarily including transfer tax. So I'm talking about like all the escrow fees and whatnot, and title insurance and so on and so forth. So transfer tax obviously will add to that. In some cases, though, I'm out the door for $1,500, and that includes transfer tax.
What is the average buy price in Fresno? Like, what's the average like pickup price? Like $200, $150?
$150, $175. Yeah.
So those are great numbers. I mean, I'm used to San Diego where it's like $700,000, $500,000.
Your transfer tax is going to be a whole different animal. But what this is a lesson, people who are watching this, is New York is obviously an example of overcomplicating something to the point of the nth degree. And there's no reason to overcomplicate your business the way New York overcomplicates their title process.
Yeah, it's a whole, and then there's a title. Yeah. Oh, and there's a title company too in New York, but they're just a service provider. So the title company is going to be at the closing today in an hour, and all they do is make sure that title is clean and there's no liens and encumbrances, and they sell you the policy. So their title company doesn't cut the checks. The title company doesn't do any of that. All they do is they're a service provider. They make sure that the property's got no liens on it, and that's all they do. So there's no, like, you don't bring a contract to title. You bring a contract to the attorney, then the attorney picks the title company. It's like kind of like in California where you go to the escrow company, and the escrow company selects the title company. But in California, you don't need to get an attorney involved, which is a great thing.
Hold on a second. You just confused me real quick. So you're talking about an escrow company being separate from a title company?
Yeah, in California, there's two different things.
Oh, I learned something new. I never knew that. I've always figured that the title company was the escrow company.
That's what I thought.
At least it is here in my city.
Don, is that up in the Central Valley? Is that how it works?
In Northern California, the title company, escrow company, are the same thing.
Oh, in Southern Cal, it's different then. In Southern Cal, it's just an escrow, and then they get title. It's a little confusing in Cali, but New York is a lot more complicated. So here's a quick story on the Northeast and why it's different, but why it's better. So this is like real going on in lifetime. So I got a house in New Jersey, and it was a pretty good deal. I mean, the numbers are very good. So I got a buyer right away, big wholesale fee. And sometimes in the Northeast, what happens is these houses are built a long time ago, and the oil tank normally is in the basement or outside the house. Sometimes you'll run into an oil tank that's buried in the ground. So when that happens, you have to drill it out before you close, because if there's like if you fix and flip a house and the retail buyer finds out that there's a buried oil tank, their lender will not give them a mortgage because it's like an environmental hazard, basically. So you have to drill these tanks out before you close, or else you can get in trouble when you flip them. So normally when this happens, I drill the tank out, no issues, costs $5,000, and then whatever. So this house, we drilled the first tank out and it was leaking. So we got a quote where it's going to be like $10,000 to remediate the oil under the ground. So it wasn't like that big of a deal. So we're like, whatever, we're going to get a credit from the seller. It's not the end of the world. So the tank company is about to be done, and we still haven't bought this house yet. Like, we're in contract to close. And the tank company goes, I think there's another oil tank on this property. And I'm like, that's impossible. There's not going to be two oil tanks. Like, you're trying to get me for another, $2,000 inspection. Like, come on now. I'm not a rookie. So they scan again.
They send you a picture of another property.
Yeah. I still haven't been to this house too. It's the funny thing. I refuse to go there. It's an hour away. I won't go. I'm like, I'm not driving an hour to go do something I can do on Zoom. So they find a second tank, and this tank is literally like next to the driveway, like right next to the house. And they go, it's a buried tank. I go, you got to be kidding me. I said, yank it out. So they yank out the tank. That's another $2,000. So now I'm in this thing for like a couple $1,000s minimum. That tank is leaking. And it's leaking underneath the foundation, and the whole entire site is contaminated. So they get the state of New Jersey involved now. Now there's like this huge open case. They gave me a quote, $50,000 to remediate. So I'm like, I'm stuck now with this house that we haven't closed on. So I have to get a credit now from the seller. So the point of that story is not to, tell you how much I love oil tanks. It's every area of the country is going to be different, right? So like, if you're going to want to like do virtual deals, like you can come to New York, come to New Jersey, come anywhere, but you got to know the little nuances of that area. So like, if you're in Phoenix and you're in, I'm sure, Dallas, there's probably not buried oil tanks because those houses are newer. But if you're dealing with older properties, that's something you need. Like, you could have a 6-figure deal, and then you could have something like this happen, and that could kill your deal. So the more you know your market, doesn't matter if you're in 1 or 2 or 3 markets, that it's just going to be so much easier to, number one, convert your marketing, and number two, make the most money on every house. Like, if I didn't know that, like, certain areas, I wouldn't be able to get certain assignment fees, because I know like one buyer just wants to keep it as a rental. He doesn't really care what the ARV is, because I know the area, because you know what I mean? So you really just, the better you know those markets, it's just so much easier to do deals, right? Whether you're rehabbing, I have rentals there, and wholesaling, it doesn't matter. It's the same principle.
Yeah, Steven's got a good question. So drill it out, tank must be emptied and removed. So you can't just like fill it with concrete or something?
I wish. I told the company, I mean, hope there's no one watching. I'm just kidding. There's a bunch of people watching this, so I got to be careful what I say. I was like, listen, at 2 a.m, if the tank wants to vanish, like, just, but anyway, right. Once they pull, basically you have to remove it, and it has to be empty, because when one of these service companies yanks out an oil tank, they have to file a permit with the township, and then the township has to notify the state. So basically they have to find out. So you have to get them removed, and it has to be empty. And then they test the soil when it gets removed. And then the soil test tells you if there's contamination. So I've pulled up.
Was this oil that somebody would have used in an old furnace to heat their house?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so this is like not like oil that you'd stick in your car motor.
No.
This is refined like for burning in a house. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So
in what state?
New York, New Jersey, Connecticut.
Got it.
Mostly up there. That's where you're going to see these.
Got it.
That doesn't happen. There's none of that in San Diego, to my knowledge. Zero. Everything is like natural gas for the most part.
I love it. Steven, send me your address. Text it to that number right there. I'll send you a free book. Dennis had a question earlier. We kind of skipped over it. I want to circle back if you don't mind, Greg. He said, what cold calling company did you use for that deal, the 60 to 70K assignment you're working out in SoCal?
Yeah, it's my buddy Iker's cold calling company. I forget the name of it, but if he wants, he can reach out to me after this and I can connect him with Iker. I know I forget the name of him, but it's just my buddy Iker's company. I think it's called like US. I forget it. If he reaches out to me after this, I will connect him with a guy who is running that show over there.
Perfect. You just send me a message. I'll drop it in the Coffee with Closers Facebook group for anybody that's interested.
And we'll get him that.
That's awesome. Guys, we also have virtual assistants that we work with and promote over at coffeewithcloserslive.com. Text flip to that number at the bottom here, and we'll respond with that website and information. But cold callers are awesome, Greg. I love it. I've been cold calling my entire career at this full time, but I've had cold calling VAs for probably going on 2 years now. And every day I get 3, 4, sometimes 5 leads added into my system.
Yep. And
all the time, all the while, I'm not behind the desk on the phone. It's amazing. So,
well, it's all about driving traffic in the door, and I think a lot of people overcomplicate marketing, and I'm certainly not an expert in it, but I've done enough channels to where like I've realized that no matter what you're doing, because I do 4 or 5 different channels, there's not like some unicorn marketing channel that's going to like give you all these crazy leads that like people think like internet leads, for example, are like home run leads. And yes, you probably need to get less SEO leads to get a house. But at the same time, most of the SEO leads are going to sound like the direct mail. Like I think like people overcomplicate it. It's about filling up the funnel with traffic and then pulling out the people who are never going to sell to you and then focusing on the people who have a chance of selling to you and then spending your time, or if you have a salesperson, having them spend their time by solving those problems. Like I remember I started getting these SEO leads a while ago and I'm like, oh man, like I thought they were going to be like just giving me their house for free, and that was obviously not the case. They were a little bit more interested because they found me, but at the same time, I've had cold call leads that have been home runs, right? And I've had direct mail leads that have been home runs, and I've had SEO leads that have been non-home runs. So you just have to get traffic in the door no matter what you're doing. And, it just, that's what I've kind of noticed. I personally, like if I had to be biased towards one marketing channel, I would have to say direct mail, simply because you don't like, unless you have a cold calling company calling for you. I just like the predictability and the consistency of direct mail. Like, when you send that out, you're going to get a certain amount of calls, and, there's going to be some bad calls here and there, where there's going to be about maybe half of them are going to be bad calls, but the good calls are really, really good. So, and they're in areas that you want to buy in. Like,
because you targeted them.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Like when they call back, they're in areas that I want to buy in, and they have equity most likely because I wouldn't have, filtered that list a certain way. So I like mail personally. I know Don loves direct mail too. It just works. I don't know how to explain.
He don't like mail.
He's the king of mail.
I love it. All right, Prue NYC says, which one are the 2 or 3 best markets at the opposite spectrum to the New Jersey, New York, Connecticut as far as complexity and cost? I'm in New Jersey, and then she said for wholesaling.
Yeah, good question. So it really depends on where you are in those states. So like New York is huge. You have like Buffalo, you have Albany, you have Long Island, and you have the Hudson Valley, which is where I am. Those are like Long Island and the Hudson Valley are very close to New York City. So they're going to be expensive, and you're going to have a lot more attorney garbage. Bergen County, New Jersey, Northern New Jersey is the same thing. There's a lot of attorneys and it's expensive. But then if you're in New Jersey, for the person asking that, and you're in South Jersey, that's more like Pennsylvania. Like you don't really need an attorney in South Jersey. This is in the Philly metro area. So I know guys down in South Jersey, they don't even use attorneys. So it really depends on where you are. And if you want to get involved in the areas in, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut that are more attorney, popular, you just have to have the right expectations going in, and then if you have the right expectations going in and you really know the market and you understand what a deal could be, you're going to be fine. And it's not going to be a problem. But a lot of people, they hear their information from someone who's not doing it in New York, which is fine. And then they go to a seller's house, they try to lock up a house, and the seller's like, I'm not signing this. And they're like, well, the guy online said to sign the contract in the kitchen. And they're like, well, I got to get an attorney involved. And then they're disappointed. So you just got to kind of know a little bit of the nuances there. But I would say if you're in New Jersey.
Anytime somebody tells me they need to get an attorney involved, I'm like.
It's funny. I had that happen to me in California one time. This is actually in San Diego. And the seller signed the contract. And I was like, all right, that was the guy was like tough seller, like really stubborn guy. I hope he's watching this. Walter, if you're watching this, you're stubborn. And he just signed this contract. And I'm like, thank God. We put it out, sold it. And all of a sudden I get an email from his attorney. She's like yelling at me. I'm like, I didn't know you existed. So other states you can get attorneys involved, but it's in New York, it's everyone has an attorney representing them. So it just makes things harder. So if that makes sense. So like it really, I've had this happen in Texas too, where like the seller had an attorney, but I didn't have an attorney and the attorney didn't care. So you just got to know going in that it might be a little harder, but it's totally worth it because you can make big profits in an expensive market. You know, you don't have to, like in New York, a common assignment fee is probably 25, 30 grand, at least down here, because the houses are so expensive. You can do that. And it's not really that uncommon. And the buyers don't really care either. Cause like, you know, everyone's got to make money.
I think the good thing is though, with like New York, because it is so complicated, that it weans out a lot of competition, right? Because I think people go there and try and do it, but then when they realize all the steps and they're new, it's super difficult. So I'm sure, like, I'm not saying it's easier to find deals because it isn't, but you get what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
True.
Like,
that's 100. Gavin, that's 100% true. There's definitely less investors up here than there are in a major, you know, investor-friendly city. You know, I think it's funny. I was doing a podcast with my friend Michael Pinter, great guy. If you guys ever want to have him on the show, he's a really wealth of knowledge. And he was telling me, he's in Long Island, so that's an hour and a half from this area. He said there's probably 6 guys on the entire Long Island. There's 3 million people on Long Island that are systematically marketing for sellers. 6 people.
That's it?
Because we know them all. Like we all know them. You know.
What?
So, yeah, that's like the way it is. I mean, and when he says 6 guys, he means like 6 guys who have real companies that are like consistently bringing in deals. There's probably more, you know, onesie twosie guys here and there, but yeah, no, it's a total different planet for that. You know, there's probably, I would say 40% of the time, probably about 40% of the time, we're the only company making the seller an offer. You know, and then the other 60% there's competition. But yeah, it's good, you know, because you don't have to, you know, fight on every single deal. You know,
we were working on one together. Can you remember that
in the Bronx? Yeah. She wasn't talking to any other investors. I bet. I think she just had I think that was a 3-unit property in the Bronx.
And I think it was a father that was living in it and he wanted to stay in it. And, you know, I know we were, you know, working, we didn't get the deal done, but, but that's the point. Like, I'm not trying to figure out New York. I just call you. Say, hey, let's JV. Yeah. What do we do?
That's the way to do it.
Absolutely.
That's the thing too. I've noticed, like a couple years ago, I was doing a good amount of properties in Dallas, you know, and I've never lived in Texas. So the way I was doing it was I was partnering up with somebody on a JV basis. We weren't on the same LLC or anything like that. It was just a case-by-case deal. We were splitting the properties 50-50. We were closing on a lot of them and just either rehabbing them or putting them on the market. But, you know, someone was like, oh, well, you're leaving all that money on the table. And I'm like, I guess you could technically say yes, but at the same time, I don't have to the only thing I had to do was get the deal either on the phone or send the lead out and have someone sign it in person. And then after that, that was pretty much it. And I would just get a wire sent to me when the deal closed. So like, I kind of looked at it like, yeah, I'm giving up half the profit, but at the same time, like I'm not really doing anything after I get the original property under contract. So the point of that is like a lot of investors, especially if they're new, if you want to add value to someone in your area, bring them deals and JV with them. And you'll learn so much just from working with someone who has a lot of experience and they're going to want to take your call if you're bringing them real opportunities. Because the way I look at it, I have a lot of people bring me deals. That's a free lead for me. Like that's a deal that I didn't have to pay any money for it in advertising. So if I have to split it with somebody, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, right? Because that's essentially like just a free property that I got. And say we make 20 grand, it's like $10,000 kind of falling from the sky. That's how I look at it, at least. Yeah. So a lot of us up here do that with other new investors.
We're doing that right now. I'm working with somebody that's brand new, and they brought a deal to the table, and they negotiated the whole thing and everything. We were handling we handled the contract. We have it in contract. We're handling the title process. And we're going to handle the dispo process, and we're going to split the profit with them. So I think all of us. I know Gavin does that. I'll do it all day long. I'm sure Dave will do it. So
I love doing it.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome.
Don't ask me to take you to coffee. Don't ask to take me to coffee. But bring a deal to the table and ask me to show you how it's done. Hands down, I'll do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's funny. The coffee thing. I used to realize like if I did that, like once in a while I will do that depending on what the scenario is. But like a lot of people, they'll ask for coffee or to pick your brain or whatever. Insert your suggestion or request. Most people don't ever do anything. Like they won't even like they'll pick your brain and you'll give them an hour or whatever, and then they won't ever do anything. And that started happening to me. And then I'm like, well, I basically just wasted my time because they're not going to do anything. So then, now it's like, okay, bring a deal. Or if you have a deal you want me to look at, I'll look at it and tell you, like, if your price makes sense, I'll let you know if it makes sense. Or if you don't know the numbers, I'll tell you what price works. Like, I'll tell you why you need to buy it for this price, especially up in the Northeast, it's harder to comp properties. And then they know, you know what I mean? A lot of times they're bringing me stuff. It's like listed on the MLS. Like, oh, you want this house? I'm like, no. It's listed.
Yeah. I was just hanging out with Dodge for a few days, and we were talking about this, like where we literally tell people like every step, like exactly what to do. Yeah. And then they'll do nothing.
Yeah.
And then they'll go and buy a course.
Oh, we talked about this the other night about how
and then they'll go and buy $5,000, still do nothing. You've just told them for free what to do. And buy another course.
And then they buy another course. And then they buy another course.
We just did a 2-day event in St. Louis, and there's a guy there. I won't say his name, but he could be watching. He'll laugh because we talked about it. He's bought so many courses, you don't even know what he's bought. You can't even get into them. And like Joe, he bought Joe's course and then tried to rebuy it because he forgot he bought it. And he's like, I am a course junkie. He buys everything from everybody. And it's just like, but not doing deals. It just blows my mind.
What's his name? What's his name in email?
Yeah, what's his name? Let me have him opt into my funnel.
I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell that lead to all of you.
Yeah, sell it to me for. Yeah, it's funny. Go on Kajabi.
That's funny.
That's hilarious. But it's true.
Yeah.
You know what? I have a theory on this. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think if you buy a course, right? And listen, I buy courses, right? I pay coaches and all that stuff. I'm in mastermind, so I have no problem paying for education. However, if you buy a course, there's really not a lot of resistance. Like maybe it's uncomfortable to spend $500, but after you spend $500, there's no resistance. You can go through a course and think you're learning, which you're technically learning, but there's no resistance there. When you actually like put out a direct mail campaign or hire a cold caller or bid on a pay-per-click, whatever keyword, you're probably going to encounter resistance there, and people don't want to encounter resistance. So they want to think that they're doing something productive by buying a course, but there's really not a lot of resistance with that, But if you're going to make offers, you're going to negotiate with sellers and get rejected and have people call you and scream at you, people by human nature, they don't want to do that. So I that's my theory on why people love buying courses, but they have a tough time taking action. That's what I would think, or they just really don't like it or want it.
There's that. And then because people want to avoid pain. Anthony Robbins, right? People want to avoid pain.
Yeah.
Okay, that's essentially the whole point.
Yeah.
There's that aspect of it. And then there is the low barrier to entry to the course. I mean, think about it, because I was anti-guru for a long time. I always say this. When I launched the podcast, I was so afraid of being labeled a guru. And I didn't want to sell, and I tried to give it away for free. And nobody just said, this was the way it was in my head. And I tried to give it away for free, and nobody did anything with it.
Yeah.
And part of the realization is like how I work. Okay. So there's a lot of things that I pay for that I don't do anything with. So what's from now when I look at a mastermind community or course, I'm looking at one, is it truly going to add the value I'm looking for? Do I align with whoever it is that is associated with it? Number two. And then is the price point, this is an honest question I'm asking myself, is the price point painful enough that's going to force me to pay attention?
I love that.
That's such a good point. I was talking about this today with some of my students. This exact thing. Is the price high enough that they're going to actually perceive value?
I love,
I'll spend $200, $300 on a product and look at it for 15 minutes and then be like, I'll come back to it. And then I'll never come back.
Right.
If I spend $1,000, I'm going to give it a half a day, maybe a whole day to look in and be like, okay, let's see what's in this thing.
What's your number? We have this, we can go on a whole different tangent too about do you need to keep your job or burn the boats? Like I'm a burn the boats guy. I think when it comes I think when it comes to buying a course or paying a mentor, what's your burn the boats number? That's the way, if you're going to actually do it, is it going to cause enough anxiety in you that you're actually going to take action on it? And that's what because the reality is we all want something for free, but we're not going to do anything with something for free. We don't value it. If somebody gives you a brand new Lamborghini, you're going to drive it into the ground. I mean, you don't value it, and you're not going to value that somebody's time and effort to put into you. You're just not going to value it.
Burn the boats.
That is so freaking true, Don. Especially too, if you think about this, just to add to that real quick. I have, hundreds of books in storage units on shelves and multiple sides of the East Coast and West Coast, hundreds of books. Imagine the collective knowledge just in all those books. A book is probably $15 on average. Let's call it $15. Yet the value in a book could literally be $10 million if it's some crazy tech startup book. But people perceive when they buy a book for $15, I'll read this if it's interesting, maybe I'll do something about it. But let's say that book costs 10 grand. Right. They would be, reading the thing with a highlighter, with a magnifying glass. So it's it's all about charging more because just because that's going to really get someone to actually take action versus, spending $15. And then if it's boring, they're going to shut the book down and go buy another book for $15.
Exactly right.
So if somebody's watching the podcast, just for the sake of anybody that's listening to the podcast right now, that's not watching this video, because this is a podcast, make sure you're liking and subscribing on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen. Dave just walked over as Greg is talking about books with a stack of books.
Oh my God.
About half his height.
I got four more over here.
David's the same height as me too. Right. That's a lot of books. Right.
So very
That's
cool.
awesome.
It's true, man. It's true. And I remember so now I'll charge for my time, right? I don't do it a lot, but if I do it, I'll charge for my time. And I remember I did a call with somebody a month and a half ago, and I make them fill out a questionnaire. They gotta really be specific so I can make sure I give them what they need. And I can guarantee you the person who pays for an hour of someone's time versus taking someone out for coffee for $5, they're going to do something over the guy who takes out for coffee, because they're I just paid this guy whatever. I'm going to take this advice and I'm going to actually put it into action. And I don't want to disappoint the person too, because I want to tell them that I implemented what they told me and got this result, and that's a big thing that I've noticed too, is if someone they are so much more likely to actually take that action. And
they find value in it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the main thing, right? If you don't find any value in it, you're just going to be oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
otherwise it's no, I'm going to take exactly what you said. I'm going to go home. I'm going to copy it, duplicate it, make it my system. Thank you.
Right.
Right.
And let's flip it one more time. And because I want to hit this on the head, because it's something I've been thinking a lot about. I have kids, right? I have kids. I have a life.
You are a kid.
You're asking. I am a kid. You're asking me to trade my most valuable commodity, the one thing that I can never refresh, get back, work harder to get more of.
Yep.
You're asking me to trade my most valuable commodity for you to give you information that I have worked my ass off and lost millions of dollars to learn.
Yeah, it's so
literally,
true.
So that you won't do anything with it. It's if you're not willing to man up or woman up and add value to that situation, you literally aren't worth me trading the one thing I can never get back. I'm sorry. Bring me a deal or pay me for my time, because I've learned the hard way that there very few people will take what you give them for free and do anything.
It's so rare, that you get that unicorn once in a while who's like just like an alley cat, starving for a meal. But that's not that common in 2021 with all the craziness going on nowadays.
Yeah. you need to also you have to bring value. That's what I look for. Like, you got to bring something to the table of value. Where you can't just come with a taking mindset. You've got to give something to get it back, right? And I don't know what that is, but how can I help you? Like, maybe if I was new, like when I started, I was doing follow-up for people, right? And then if I got a deal, we'd split it. So I'm actually, when I went in to get in front of people, I was adding value, right? By positioning, hey, are you, what are you doing for follow? Oh, no, it's always falling through. We never get to it. Hey, what if I come in and I worked all your follow-up for you? Okay, and anything I get, we'd partner on. How does that sound? So I'm adding value to get to the table. Does that make sense? Which is key. So just wanted to throw that out there. And hey,
especially with like busy investors, like if someone approached me and they said, hey, Greg, export, 400 of your follow-ups, give them to me. And if I get a deal, we'll split it. That's an easy offer for me to say yes to, because that takes me 5 minutes and could potentially lead to me making some money with them. So like, it's all about, like you said, Gavin, adding value and thinking in your head, what would this person benefit from? And then presenting them a good offer. And that's how you get people to take your calls.
Absolutely. Real quick, guys, if you are watching, we've got a lot of people watching. We've got some hearts and likes. Do us a favor. Make sure, if you're wherever you're watching, like and subscribe. Give us a like. Share the post. We would appreciate it. Again, we're here live every single week, every Wednesday, 12 Eastern, 11 Central, 9 Pacific, depending on where you are watching. Coffee with Closers with myself, Don, and David. We have an awesome guest, Greg Helbeck, good friend of all of ours. He's lived in San Diego. He lives in New York, and he's doing a lot of deals. So that's where you're at if you are just joining. So we do appreciate you. Real quick, guys, I got a selfish one for you. It's been a bit of a crazy morning. So here's the deal. What do I do? What do I do with this? I'm in Michigan, right? I'm in Michigan right now as we speak, and I'm supposed to be closing. I'm in my RV, and I'm on.
But you're already in Michigan? You were at my house last night.
I know.
Or 2 nights ago.
Hey, I worked out, from Monday to Monday.
To Georgia?
No, I'm in Michigan. I flew back to Michigan.
Got it.
For the last 7 days, get this, Monday to Monday, I know it's Wednesday today, but I did 5 coaching calls, okay, in 5 different states in 7 days. How mad's that? So I've been on the go, and it's been crazy. I've been in Florida, Georgia, St. Louis, Tennessee, Michigan. It's been nuts. Anyway,
oh my gosh,
I have a closing today, and I have a problem, and I've got to just talk it through. And I don't know.
Let me grab another cup of coffee. Let's do this.
Let's do this. It's going to. So here's the deal. So I have a closing. I closed on a property on Thursday last week in Birmingham, Alabama. Number 1 rule when you're flipping a house, always pick an offer where someone is using a local lender and not a national lender. Okay.
You're saying on the sell side of this?
Yes, on the sell side. The reason being is we were using Chase. They messed up the HUD. We signed all the documents on Thursday. The money was wired in. There was $750 short. It took us until this morning to get the funds.
Were you able to not just limit or reduce your fee by that?
No, they wouldn't do it. No,
they wouldn't do that?
No, I even said, I'll eat it. I don't care. Give me the money. And they said, we can't until we make it right. So we're going back and forth. The attorney was working on it. Anyway, it was a disaster. Anyway, we finally get the money. The money hits the account this morning, and now it's pending. So I call Wells Fargo. After prepping for this, we have a closing today of the house I'm next to, the lake house, closing at 3 o'clock today. Basically, I have to wire in. So I speak to Wells Fargo, who is not local to Michigan. They're in Savannah, and they're all over the place, but they're not in Michigan. So I went into the bank before I left Savannah and said, hey, I got a house coming up, and I need to wire funds. And I know normally you want me to come into the bank, but I physically can't come into the bank. So what do? She said, well, it's a longer process, but you have to email
was doing this when we were in Tulum last year. He was wiring money from his laptop as well.
Yeah, I
remember that.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know, look at that. So I try and prep and get ready that I've got this closing coming up. right? Now, obviously, the money gets delayed. Fine. I call the bank. It says it's pending. They're like, no, you're fine. It's actually in your account. So I moved it from one account to the other account. Anyway, that's fine. So then I come to actually do the wire. So I contact them and said, hey, I need to do this. And it's a lengthy process. And here's the problem. I've got to wire 147,000 into closing. And they're like, you've just received a wire of 232,000, right? And you now want to wire out 149,000 on a telephone transaction or whatever it's called. It's probably going to get denied.
Yeah, you tell them that you were a prince in Nigeria as well.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, cool.
Some money.
So I'm like, well, that doesn't help me, does it? Because I need to get this money into title to close. Now,
right.
I've talked to title. They were like, look, you can sign the documents. We'll just delay it until the funds come in. But I'm like, well, cool, but I don't know how I'm going to get the funds there. So I'm now I've come to the conclusion that I have to drive 4 hours to the bank. Has anyone got any other suggestions?
Listen, I mean, I do this a lot, especially going back and forth. So I use Chase. So, I mean, that's a huge, national bank. I do all my wires online, on the computer or on my phone. I've increased my wire limit to whatever, because this is for a lot of deals. So if you can call them and increase your wire limit, to over 250, they might be able to let you do it on your computer, because
right now it's 25 grand.
Yeah, you have to bump it. That happened to me, and I was what the hell? I was with David actually too. I
remember we were together
in Nebraska too.
I was in Nebraska.
I was buying a stupid building, and I had to put a lot of money down, and I was like jumping all over the place. So, it is a stupid. It's costing me a lot of money now. It's a little bit of a dog, but that's another story for another day. But anyway, I had to go, and I was on the phone with Chase. They were being idiots like normal, and then they were like, "Well, just increase your wire limit, and you can send this wire on your phone or your computer." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So I learned that lesson.
Right. Okay, so I call Wells Fargo, and I'm going to try that because I didn't actually try. That gets shut down. That gets shut down. Then what do we do?
Well, that's
only me driving 4 hours.
That's only $25,000 wires.
Oh,
yeah, it's a limit. It's a limit. 25.
Hey, Gavin, is this a wholesale?
No, this is me buying.
Okay, got it.
Are you flipping the house, or are you living in this lake house?
No, we're keeping it. So I'm buying it and I'm keeping it. Yeah.
Okay, so you just need to take. Okay, so what
I just need to move my own money into this to pay cash to buy it, and that's all I'm trying to do.
Do you have? So the closest Wells Fargo from where you are is 4 hours away.
For 4.5 hours. Yeah.
Where are you in Michigan, by the way? That's my first question.
So I am an hour north of Grand Rapids. So
so you're like on the west coast of Michigan, all the way up, like kind of.
Well, yeah, it's not that far up, but you got to think Chicago. You've got to go all the way down and back around to get to Chicago, like South Illinois or whatever. South Chicago.
How much is it, Gavin? I can cover it for you for a few days for 1 or 2%.
maybe you can go to a local bank, Gavin. Maybe
I'll save you the 4-hour drive, brother.
Yeah. Couple points.
It could be an option.
Some Ranger tickets.
It could be an option. Don't tempt me.
If you go to a local bank and wherever you are and see if they could maybe do the wire for you, maybe I would ask that if you can.
Well, I've got an account with Chase. So I've been thinking I have an account with Chase, but I don't have a business account. I have an account with Chase, a personal account that I don't really use, but there is a Chase local. But then I'm thinking if I go and see Chase, it's going to be the same problem because I still got to. It doesn't matter.
Get the money from that account.
I've got to get the money from that account to Chase, so it's still not going to work.
It's like a stock you're buying on margin almost. It's like you're trying to trade on margin. I mean, I would say that worst case scenario, if I were you, if you couldn't like do it virtually, I personally would not drive 4 hours. I would say escrow company, title company, unless a meteor is going to hit this house tonight. Can we just wait till my funds hit the account? And so it depends on the urgency.
From like a family friend or something.
Yeah, it's coming from, but still, we're buying a grandmother out. But I'm not worried about. Yeah, I could push closing back, but I'm still going to have the problem of I've got to get the money. So that's never not going to change. That's my point. Because I'm here now for the next. I mean, I'm flying to Tampa in a couple of weeks, but I'm not back home for another 5 6
Oh yeah, you're kind of you're up in Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not leaving anytime soon.
I would exhaust all options to not drive 4 hours, and then if you try that for 24 hours, and the only option is go 4 hours, then I would have to just cave in and do it. But I would just try to make a. I mean, 4 hours is a good ride. That's like me driving from like San Diego to Vegas or something. So that's a good trip. So yeah, that would be my last option. But I think if you could try to see if a local bank could get creative with you or something like that, that might be the way to go.
I love it. All right,
good
question. What tools do we need in our tool belt? Podio, scraping solutions, batch leads, Freedom Soft, Rentometer, all, some. Greg, this is actually a really good question. I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the softwares and tools that you use in your business?
Sure. PropStream, I use that a lot. Podio, CallRail, and Google Sheets.
Man, that's pretty simple.
And
what about a phone system?
On Carrot, CallRail.
On Carrot. That's for your inbound leads from AdWords or direct mail or whatever.
Yeah, I would say the biggest one though is I use CallRail a lot.
Is that your phone system?
Yeah, I have like 55 different phone numbers.
Let me ask you a question, okay? Because we're smartphone. Just to throw that out there, it's SMRT Yeah. Okay. So CallRail is more robust when it comes to like your KPI tracking, like your dashboard reporting. They're on fire. But years ago they had this delay in the call. Because it's voice over IP, and there was this delay, and it was really weird when you're trying to build rapport with the seller, and they would say something, it would take a second for you to hear them, and you'd say something, take a second for you to hear them to hear you. So we switched over to smartphone, and the call quality of smartphone was better then. How is CallRail's quality now? Do you feel like there's still a delay?
I don't sense it from what I can tell. I think it depends though, Don, because there's two things you can do on CallRail is you can call through the internet, or you can call and it will hit your phone and then it'll go out to the actual number. So I like to make all of the calls, and my assistant makes all of the calls through the internet. So it doesn't route their live phone.
On the line.
It's an internet call. Yeah, it's literally a web call versus like calling the number, having it route to my cell phone or her cell phone, and then it going out to that phone number. So I think that's where there's a little bit of a gap. So I like to just go all through the internet because, I need Wi-Fi to work for the most part, or I can just use my phone data. The thing I've noticed with CallRail, though, that I don't like is that they're like my CallRail bill gets more expensive every month. Like my CallRail bill last month was $350.
Wow.
Just for call. It's a lot. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And I was investigating, and it was like, my assistant was using the phones more, which is a good problem, I guess, because that means she's making offers and whatnot. But like, I think they rolled something new out, and like that's an add-on. You know what I mean? So it is getting more expensive. But the way I'm looking at it is like, well, if the CallRail bill is expensive, that means the phone's ringing, and if the phone's ringing, we're making money. So it might just be a wash. So, and I'm so committed to CallRail. Like I have so many numbers with them, and I just use it so much. It's like, it would be hard for me to part with CallRail because I'm just so familiar with it. But I've found the internet has not been a problem. Actually, sometimes CallRail is clearer than my cell phone. That's
good to know. That's good to know. All right, so PropStream, Podio, CallRail, Google Sheets, On Carrot. That's probably at least 80% of what you're using, right? 80-20 principle?
I don't think I'm using there's another thing I use actually that's pretty cool. It's called OLM Investor Hub. It's
Haven't heard of that. What
software. It's like a list stacking software.
Got it. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, that's something I use too. But besides that, I mean, I pretty much keep it simple. Nothing.
Gavin and I were talking about this just the other night on my couch having beers. What tools do you need to be in the tool belt? I'm going to circle back to this question that Caroline had. Podio, scraping solution, batch leads, Freedom Soft, Rentometer. And here's the thing, guys, all of these tools are going to help you if you use them, right? It's how much time are you going to dedicate? So like, don't go out and get 10 softwares if you're not going to use all but one or two of them, right? Also, Gavin, will you explain to me what you said the other day about how you had a guy that had been doing deals for 12 years? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So we're at the event, And we kind of went round the room at the start, like, hey, like, why are you here? What's one thing you want to get out of the event? And it was constantly like, let's say we had 40 people, I'd say at least 20 was about a CRM. Oh, I need help with this. I need help with FreedomSoft. And these people aren't doing any deals. And I explained to everyone after we'd gone around that here's the deal. This is the problem. Your focus is in completely the wrong area, right? When you're looking at the systems and tools, and that's where you're held up. The money is made on the phone, right? You have to market, to have to talk to sellers, to make offers, to follow up, right? You have to. Your craft needs to be done on the phone to be good in sales, to negotiate deals and make things happen. And there's a gentleman in the room who's been in the business since 2003. Okay, he did from 2003 to 2015 without a CRM, right? He didn't get a CRM until 2015. So that was great that he said that, because I'm like, there's the point, right? That is the point of you don't need all this technology to be successful. It's there to assist you, to make you better, to make you more efficient. But the reality is the money's made on the phone, and that's just it. And I don't care what anyone says. That's my opinion.
I 100%
and I think we
agree,
probably
man.
all have the same opinion with it.
I wasn't there, but you just said 2003 to 2015. So you must have been like talking about me, because I didn't have a CRM until 2015.
Wow. Look at that.
So, and I still don't even know how to use our CRM.
I don't even, I use basic Podio to just keep track of the leads and the stages. That's it. I have no automations, nothing. You know
Same
why?
With, same.
I'm an 80-20 guy, man. If the biggest, I've learned this from Michael Pinter and Gary Harper, the number one brick in this business, if you want to make a lot of money, he says brick as in like the thing that you stack on top of each other to build something, is making offers. So the person who's going nuts over the CR, listen, if you're a struggling investor, I'll ask you, how many offers did you make last week? And if you can't tell me how many offers either you or your team made, that's probably why you're not getting the deals you want to get. You need to
100%.
literally track offers, and the way I look at it is like tracking numbers. You're going to have leads coming in, offers made, contracts signed, deals closed, money or equity, depending on if you're renting it or not. That's it. If you keep it that simple, and there's a book actually, where is it? Right? Let me pull this book out real quick. Let me see where this is. This book right here. If you read this book,
that's it. The one thing. Love that book.
Get this book and find your one thing out. And in this business, it is making offers. So I gave you the spoiler alert there. And you track that. There's no way you will not be making money in 6 to 12 months if you do it consistently. I mean, it would be impossible. It's like physics. So, I'm passionate about the simple stuff.
No, 100%. I mean, that is the same. I think there's 3 things in a CRM, right? You change the status so you know what's going on. You create a task so you know what to do next, and you update your notes. That's it. They are the 3 things in the CRM that you need. Julia's going to kill you. She's just told you to tidy that desk up.
I love it. I love it.
It just awesome. Make offers and and like another thing too is like the metric of making offers is such a good metric, because let's say you make 30 offers and you get 0 offers accepted. Let's just say hypothetically, that's probably not going to happen, but let's just say that happens. Then you're probably making your offer too low, and then you got to adjust. Like that metric will tell you like where you need to be better, right? And if you make 30 offers and you get 10 accepted or whatever, maybe you're paying too much, right? So like there's just so many dials you can turn when you're doing the thing that matters most, which is presenting offers. And then that will tell you whether you're producing good results or whether you need to, adjust. But, there's resistance with making offers. There's no resistance with signing up for a system.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no resistance. Oh, cool. $100 a month now. There's no resistance. There's no rejection. There's no hair on deals.
I love it. So Caroline, here's the deal, right? So, what tools do you need in your belt, right? You got a couple different things here. My personal opinion is all you really need is the ability to run comps. That's it. So, PropStream is a great solution for that. If you're an agent or a broker and you have local MLS access, then you don't even need it. Okay. All you need to do is be able to run comps so you can determine what a fair/low offer is. As an investor, we make our money when we buy, we get paid when we sell. So you need to learn how to comp properties if you don't already. Hopefully you do. so you can make educated decisions on what those offers are and then send offers. That's it, right? So any of these other things, where's that comment at? Here it is. Let's put that back up. Scott scrolled up. Any of these other things like batch leads and FreedomSoft and Rental Meter, these are really just, other ways to help you make more offers and or make sure that the offer you're making is an educated offer. That's it. So in theory, you don't really need anything other than a contract and a comping tool. That's it. Podio and FreedomSoft and RE Simply is one of my favorites. And REI Black Book's another great one. All these things have lots of bells and whistles, but at the end of the day, CRMs only do two things. And I'm actually curious if you guys, disagree or agree with me on this. But from my perspective, and I've used a ton, is they help you take notes on what's going on with the lead, and they remind you when your next follow-up is. It's notes and tasks. That's it. That's
all mine does.
That's it. It's notes and tasks. Now, if you have automated follow-up and e-contract signatures, and these are just bells and whistles, they may make your business run a little smoother. But guess what? In the beginning, they're going to do the exact opposite because you have to set them up. And that could take 1 hour. It could take 100 hours. I've literally gone down rabbit holes with CRMs for months, literally months in the plural. And guess what happened to my business when I'm trying to automate a contract? Nothing. No offers are being made.
Yep.
Right. And all of a sudden I'm doing 10 deals and I'm all of a sudden doing 2. And I'm like, well, what the hell just happened? And it's because I had my head down in a system trying to figure it out, when in reality, comping properties, making educated guesses on offers and sending those offers are what get you paid. Period.
Yes. So you can afford those nice tools. Exactly.
So now we have additional tools to help market, to get more leads in the door, so we can do what? Make offers to them.
Make more offers.
Love it. Excellent question, Caroline. I love it. Send me a text with your address if you're interested, and I will send you a free book. I love it. That's a great question.
Look at that.
Greg, you got time for a few more, or are you in a hurry?
Of course I do, my man.
Cool. Let's say maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. Gavin and Don, if you guys got to go, it's all good. Totally understand.
I got to go and figure out if I'm driving 4 hours or not.
Yeah, do your thing, brother. No problem at all. No problem at all. All right.
All right, guys. I appreciate it.
Jay says, I'm putting out bandit signs and I'm doing all of the marketing. That's it. That's what you got to do, Jay. Do the marketing. It's opportunities for you to make offers to people. I love it. Jay also says, I'm getting in the business. Agent don't want me to write or assign the contract, but he says he'll pay me a fee because I want my ink to get paid at closing. Is this a good deal? And essentially, it just depends on that relationship that you have with the agent. Agents don't want you to write contracts on properties that you then wholesale, because there's a big chance that your partner may not close. And it's going to be a time waste, right?
Yes.
So you're better off finding that partner first and then making that offer to the agent all at the same time versus trying to find them after the fact. So that brings up a really good point. MLS listed properties are difficult.
Yeah,
they are difficult to do. I don't do a whole lot of MLS properties because of a couple reasons. One, they want proof of funds, right? Well, we can do that, but if I'm on a wholesale house, I'm going to put $100 down. I don't want to put down $250,000 to buy the thing first. I want to be able to use contracts and leverage to be able to control it and sell it. Two, agents, whenever they go in and they pitch their business, Greg, you're going to love this. When they go in and they pitch their business, do you think that the agents are ever like, hey, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to get you 65 to 75 cents of what it's worth? Who's going to hire that agent? Nobody ever, right?
Yeah.
Agents are going to say, hey, Zestimate says it's worth 160. Let's list it for 180 and see what happens. They're going to give you the optimistic point of view, right?
And they have no skin in the game either.
They're going to have no skin in the game either. So when you go to an agent and you say, hey, I'm going to pay you 70 cents on the dollar, do you think they're even going to take that offer to the seller? I mean, they're supposed to. That's ethical. That's the way it works. But they're not. They're going to be like, oh, my seller doesn't want this one. Thanks for the offer, right?
Yeah, I've had with that. I mean, I have the rare, like maybe once. This has happened once so far this year where a seller got my mailer and it was listed on the market. And I'm like, dude, your house is listed. I don't think this is going to make a lot of sense. And he was ultra motivated and we ended up buying it. but that's not normal. That's an anomaly. That happens once a year maybe because we do enough marketing. So I wouldn't say making offers on the MLS. If you're going to wholesale, it makes any sense. If you're going to take them down and rehab them and that area, that could probably work. But if you're assigning contracts, I mean, that's the MLS, you're barking up the wrong tree.
Well, here's the other perspective of it. Most people that are trying to wholesale at the MLS, this is what really gets my anger going. They'll go in and they will outbid everybody else that's bidding on the MLS making offers, and then they'll try to assign it for a higher price.
My gosh.
If you that's not adding value. It's like if you go in and it's listed for 100 and you negotiate it down to 80 or 75, and then you want to wholesale it for, say you get it for 75, you want to wholesale for 85. Well, you added value, you negotiated it down, right? You put in some work. I could get behind that. But if it's listed for 100, you go bid it up to 120 and then try to assign it to me for 130, you've added zero value.
That's insane.
And that's I've seen that happen so many times. It's ridiculous.
That is so insane. Yeah, no, that's the thing. There's with the MLS, if this guy's still watching, it's easy to go on the MLS and make a bunch of bunk offers and think you're productive because technically you're making offers, but you're not making offers on the right property. So you got there's not a lot of resistance there. Once again, that's the theme of the show, I guess, is resistance. Like if you send out marketing and you get people to call you and they are real off-market deals that are not listed, that's when the offers you make are going to start to add up. Because if you're not doing that, anyone can go on the MLS and, make a bunch of offers in 10 minutes, but not everyone wants to go send out marketing or do whatever and talk to a seller and make an offer and negotiate and follow up. That's where the value's added, because you're going out, like Don says, you're creating value by finding a deal that no one knows about at a good price. And then you're selling it at a price that works for both parties. And that's how you create deals, by adding value. So, the more resistance, the better in the beginning, because then you just get used to it.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely agree. A couple more real quick, guys, and then we'll wrap up for today. I appreciate you staying on for a couple extra minutes with us today, Greg.
No problem, man.
Will says, what is the best method for contacting sellers? Here it is right here, Will.
iPhone.
It's a phone.
12 plus.
Yep. Doesn't matter what type of phone. It's a phone. All marketing leads to phone calls. All.
Yes.
Right?
Everything.
If you're doing SMS blasting or texting, right? The purpose is to get people on the phone, right?
Yes.
If you're sending direct mail, you're telling them to call, text, or email you, or go to your site and fill out a form. So then you can then call that person, right? If you're doing radio ads, you're going to be advertising your phone number or your website so they can call you, or they can fill out a form so you can call them. Bandit signs. You're not putting down your home address saying, come over to my house and hang out with me. You're saying, call me. Yeah. I want to buy your crib, right? It all leads to phone calls. So the best way to go about talking and finding sellers is always going to be to use a phone. All these other methods are going to drive people to get on the phone with you. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely. 100%.
Love it. All right, guys, we got time for one more. Let's see what we got here. What is a good tool to comp properties? That's a good one. A good tool to comp properties. I think PropStream is what we're all.
Redfin.com.
Yeah, Redfin's free, guys. Redfin.
Redfin.com.
Realtor.com. ePraisal. These are free places, right?
We got to do the caveat that you don't go off the Zestimate. If you go to Zillow, you look at the neighborhood and the properties around it, what's sold and what's listed. Yeah, I just want to make sure that somebody who's never heard that before hears that the Zestimate
that would
is
be
garbage.
Easy if you just do the Zestimate, you're on the money every time. I would have a VA make offers for me, But Redfin MLS. Well, I like the MLS, but depending on if you can get that in your area, or if you have a license, right, that would solve that. But I've found that Redfin in Southern California is pretty much the MLS. I found PropStream basically is the MLS in that area. And then same up here in the Northeast, Redfin and PropStream. If you don't have the MLS, you can do some real damage with those two pieces of software.
I love it, man. Greg, thank you so much for coming on today. Always a pleasure chatting with you. You inspire the hell out of me, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
And you're always doing big things. And I love connecting with you. I love learning from you. I always learn something every time I talk to you, man. You are full of knowledge. And I'm going to speak for Don on this as well. We are super grateful to have you on the show today, man. Thank you so much.
It is my honor to be a guest. Thank you for allowing me to join. So I hope you both have a great rest of your afternoon, and sure we'll talk soon.
That's right, guys. Thanks for watching.
See you guys.
Don't forget
Bye-bye.
coffeewithcloserslive.com, free resources. And if you watch today and you want a free wholesaling real estate book, I got about 30 of these in my basement that I need to get rid of today. I will send you one for free. Now, this is only to the people that text me in the next 30 minutes. So if you're listening to the podcast, we have other giveaways for you. But I'm actually going to be mailing people a book today for free, my cost. All you got to do is text me your address. Don't drop it in the comments. I'm only going to be working on the texting, right? So 314-310-5221. Again, that's 314-310-5221. Shoot me a text.